So for those still using the iPhone 11, you may be wondering if the iPhone 15 4 years later is worth the upgrades, and so let's break down the differences. Beginning with the design, the iPhone 11 was the last generation of the rounded chassis design before we switched to the flat sides with iPhone 12, and I can't lie, I do miss this. The flat sides visually do look nice, but practically speaking, your hands really aren't made to hold things with sharp edges for hours on end, and so it's frankly refreshing to go back to the iPhone 11. However, while the 15 isn't as comfy as the 11 in the hand, the slightly rounded design does make a huge difference, and this is a big upgrade over the iPhone 12, 13, and 14. And honestly, in every other aspect, the 15's design is a big upgrade. It's lighter, thinner, and also more compact because it has much thinner bezels, and this really makes a huge difference. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. You also get the fancy dynamic island, and also a nice silky matte finish on the back of the device, as well as a diagonal camera layout. Now yes, I did criticize the island back when it released with the 14 Pro, and it's still not a must-have feature by any means, but I can't lie guys, Apple's baking in some really cool animations with the island, and I'm a sucker for some cool animations, and I feel like it's being further integrated into iOS. Do remember last year only the Pros had this, but with the mainstream iPhone now gaining this, I'm sure more developers are going to have the incentive to build around this and have specific features made for the island. And so the future of the island is quite exciting, and also at the end of the day guys, visually speaking, this island is a massive upgrade over the ginormous notch the iPhone 11 has. Also, while those use a case probably won't care about this, oh my god, does a silky matte finish on the back of the 15s feel so good. Especially compared to how much of a fingerprint magnet the old regular phones used to be, this very much is a welcome change. Colors wise though, I will say I do prefer the iPhone 11's range of colors, though I am slowly warming up to the colors on iPhone 15. This matte black especially is very clean, but I do wish the rest of the range were more saturated. And last but not least, we have a new port on iPhone 15, which is USB-C. Yes, after many years of consumers begging Apple to give us this, they were gracious enough to finally listen, and they totally weren't forced by a government to include this. But jokes aside, I'm sure this alone is going to be a big reason to get the 15 for many consumers. I'm actually in a minority where I couldn't care less about Type-C, so of course this change does not bother me, but I know there's only 5 of us who are actually fine with the Lightning port, so thank you Apple for finally giving us this. Materials wise, there's really only one difference, which is ceramic shield on the iPhone 15. Now this is just fancy jargon for slightly more durable glass, but at the end of the day guys, glass is glass, and it's going to shatter pretty easily if you do chuck your iPhone off a cliff. Both phones do have aluminium on the sides as well, which seems to be the superior material choice after seeing how troublesome titanium has been on the Pros. I will say the lighter and thinner body makes a massive difference with the 15. The 11 low-key feels like my 14 Pro Max in the hand, even though it's only a 6.1 inch device, so I'm happy to see there's been a huge reduction in the weight and size. Both are also IP68 rated, though the 15 can go deeper, so if you care about scuba diving with your iPhone, the 15 is the one to get. Moving to the display, this is undoubtedly the biggest upgrade going from iPhone 11 to 15, because for one, you have slimmer bezels. It's crazy, I used to live with the iPhone 11 and the chunk bezels on this, and so you will immediately appreciate how much better the 15 looks. But also there's OLED on the 15 that gives you better colors, deeper blacks. It's a high resolution panel with a better contrast ratio, but really the big upgrade I care about is how much brighter the 15 gets. The iPhone 11 had a max brightness of 625 nits, which wasn't very good. I mean, it's usable indoors, but outdoors it absolutely struggles. And so 1000 nits of brightness for typical use, 1600 nits for HDR content, and a whopping 2000 nits of brightness outdoors is a real game changer. This makes a big difference, and we had this last year on the 14 Pros, and it finally makes these iPhone displays viewable in sunlight. Performance-wise, you have the A16 Bionic in the iPhone 15 that, of course, originally debuted with the 14 Pro. Now, on paper, this is quite a big upgrade over the A13 in the iPhone 11, but if I'm gonna be honest, guys, this is one aspect where you're not going to see much of a difference. I think because the optimization of iOS is so good, you could probably use the iPhone 11 and 15 together, and in terms of regular use, you really can't see much of a difference. Now obviously if you push the phones and you play some cheeky Genshin Impact, you're gonna see the performance upgrades with the 15, but I don't game very often, guys, and so if you're watching YouTube, reading some tweets, scrolling on Reddit occasionally, there's really not much of a difference. iPhone 11 does have slightly less RAM compared to the 15, it's 4 gigs versus 6 gigs, and I do notice the benefit of the additional RAM when multitasking on the device. But 4 gigs is definitely pretty usable as well, because this is not some Android phone that needs 16 gigs of RAM to function properly, because guess what? iOS is super efficient. Moving to the camera, this once again is where you start to see bigger changes, because I would say in every aspect of the camera experience, the 15 does have substantial upgrades. Beginning with the main lens, it's now 48 megapixels, that's a lot of pickles. However, the shots are binned down to 24 megapixels by default. However, even then, for the pixel peepers, you're definitely going to pick up on the 15 producing crispier shots with much more detail. But that's not the change I care about. The main reason I was so excited for this main lens upgrade was because this allows for the 2x crop we saw with the 14 Pro to come down to the regular models. Now, Apple does kind of falsely advertise this as a 2x telephoto. I see what you're doing, Timothy, that's a little cheeky, but at the same time, this actually is on par with the telephoto lens. It's incredibly effective, and so if you're going to be zooming into things, you have to get the 15. Also, since the iPhone 11 came out 4 years ago, the 15 does have a lot of camera features from previous iPhone models like sensor shift stabilization, cinematic mode HDR video recording, photographic styles, photonic engine, night mode time-lapse, and also action mode, which are all nice to have features. I will say Smart HDR5 on iPhone 15 does fix everything that went wrong with Smart HDR4, because for the last 2 years, we were getting over-processed images that would sometimes look like hot garbage, and thankfully I see less of that with the 15. Now fortunately, the ultra-wide on these phones are exactly the same, so that means you can upgrade to a phone that's 4 years newer, and yet you're not going to see many changes in this aspect. The 15 falls behind newer Pro phones with their better ultra-wides, and also these phones have macro support, though yes, if you give this enough light, it can still produce decent shots. The front-facing camera, however, is thankfully a pretty big upgrade from iPhone 11 because it has the same autofocus tech from last year's 14s. I'm actually surprised every iPhone before the 14 did not have this, but it makes a big difference, and so selfies are much better here on the 15 compared to iPhone 11. Also, fun fact, things like Deep Fusion and Night Mode, which were introduced with the iPhone 11, only work with the rear cameras on the older phone, but the 15 does bring this tech to the front-facing camera, so yes, overall guys, the 15 is a pretty major upgrade. Video-wise, both actually produce very good footage. iPhones are the king in this aspect, and have been the king for many years, and really the main advantage with the 15 is the fact the 2x option is so good that if you want to zoom into anything, it looks a lot better on the 15, and so yes, if you care about that, get the latest iPhone. Also, something I've quickly come to appreciate are next-gen portraits. Now, the portrait mode itself isn't radically different. The 15 does produce slightly better shots, but the new thing here is that the 15 automatically collects the data the phone needs for portraits, and so you can now turn most photos into portrait in post. That is super clutch. Now, connectivity wise, we also got big upgrades with the iPhone 15 because you get the superior Qualcomm modem that gives you 5G, because yes, the 11 was the last iPhone to not support 5G, but generally speeds are much more reliable with the 15 because frankly speaking, the Intel modems were a bit iffy with the 11s. They did have some issues, and so reception's gonna be much better on the 15. You also get the U2 chip in the new iPhone that's gonna come in handy for some new features, like precision finding for Find My Friends. There's also support for Bluetooth 5.3 on the 15, though I haven't seen much of a difference between these devices in this aspect, and both also support Wi-Fi 6. Also, I do want to mention, if you want the peace of mind, iPhone 15 does offer emergency SOS via satellite and also crash detection. I'm sure you guys have seen the ads. Apple markets the hell out of these features, and I admit they can save lives. If you're wondering if Face ID is any faster on the 15 because of the island, no, that's not the case. Both are also pretty similar in this aspect. However, only the iPhone 13 and above support Face ID in landscape, so that is a new feature for those on the iPhone 11 right now. And also the mics and speakers do sound a little better on the 15 in my opinion, and here's a sample for you guys right now. So here's a mic test on the iPhone 11 for you guys. Let me know how this sounds. And here's a quick mic test on the iPhone 15. Coming to battery life, Apple on their site says the 15 gets you 3 more hours of endurance, and there is actually a big difference in terms of real life usage. I used to daily drive an iPhone 11, and at most I was getting 5 to 6 hours of screen on time on a single charge. I was definitely cutting it close on most days. Thankfully, the 15 for my usage nearly always gets me 7 to 8 hours of screen on time, and so yeah, this undoubtedly will be a big upgrade many are going to immediately appreciate. Now, if you were hoping USB-C would give us faster charging speeds, no, that's not the case. They both charge at similar rates. However, if I'm being honest, I'm not too fussed about the lack of charging speed upgrades because the 15 gets you through the day pretty easily, so you're going to be charging overnight most of the time anyways. A big difference in terms of charging, however, is the lack of MagSafe on iPhone 11. I have very much become invested in the MagSafe ecosystem, and so of course, not being able to slap my power bank on the back of the 11 does suck a little, I can't lie. I love myself some magnets. And so this is a big upgrade with the 15. So that's everything, guys, and I think my answer's pretty simple here. Yes, you should upgrade. It's totally worth it. A lot of consumers nowadays are on a 3 to 4 year cycle, so there's enough new with the 15 that makes it a worthy upgrade. Also remember that if you did get the base 64GB iPhone 11, you're now getting double the storage as standard. You also get the brighter OLED display, the Island 5G, better modems, better battery life, better cameras. It's really an upgrade in every single aspect. However, if you do also want to save some cash, I can recommend the iPhone 13. It's come down in price, but also is available for less refurbished. I'll leave some links in the description and comments, but even this has some solid upgrades over the 11 like OLEDs and also the better battery life. So yes, for iPhone 11 users, it's very much the right time to upgrade in my opinion. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.